So in this video we're going to be focusing on block model, mostly block model interrogation and block model display. So first of all we're going to just go through and set a few drawing information set up. First thing I want to do is pick my block model. So this is the geology toolbar here. So first thing I'm going to do is set my block model so I can have as many block models as I want. Right now I just have one I'm testing here. Next is to show the parameters of the block model. So this is the area that I have covered, and if I rotate it you can see in 3D what it looks like. Alright, so next thing I want to do is I want to bring in a level of one of a mine so that I can see what the area that I'm interested in. So I'm just going to quickly pick a level here from our manager software. So I'm going to pick my mine and quickly pick a level and just bring in the 3D walls. That's all I'm interested in. So there's the mine level that I'm interested in right there. Actually, I'm going to bring in another level as well. So let's bring in a couple more here. Okay, so there's the mine site. So what I want to do is, now I just want to split my screen in half. Like so. And I want to flip this one on its side. Okay, I don't need this block anymore. I'm just going to delete that. So here are the levels I just brought in. Let's look at them over here. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is I want to set an elevation so that I can bring in the blocks at that elevation from the block model. So first thing I want to do is I'm just going to go here, set my Z for this drawing, and I'm going to come over and pick the elevation right here. So this has been set. If I pull this down, you see the elevation is set to 910. Next thing I want to do is go to my geology toolbar. I'm going to bring in some copper equivalent, and I'm just going to color code it on copper equivalent. So the one that I'm using, copper equivalent here, this is my color separations that I'm using. Alright, so I'm going to bring in elevation 910, just bring it exactly at 910. Like so. And I want to see the text value. I want to have it brought in. I can bring it in either as a polygon, a face, or a solid. In this case I'm going to bring it as a solid. And I just want one thickness. So let's see what that looks like. So it's going to go out to my SQL server and it's going to pull in the information from my database. And then it's going to draw it in AutoCAD. So right now it's communicating with my SQL server. It's receiving the data. It's now drawn the data, and you can see it's drawn the information here. If you look at it over on the side, you can see here. So actually I don't want all the yellow, so I'm going to get rid of the yellow. So the way I do that, I just edit my profile. So copper equivalent. This stuff here, I just want to delete that and say I don't want any color for anything below 1.5%. Quickly go back and redraw it. Alright, so there's the block information drawn. You can see my values here when I zoom in. So for that elevation, let me just clip my view here so I don't see the other levels. So you see from here down to here, like that. So there's my my level that I'm interested in. So this one is elevation 910. Just open my. Sorry, I'm a little old school here. Layers. So I'm looking at level 7900. Okay, so when I drew that, I just said I wanted to see one thickness. I could pick as many thicknesses as I want, so let's increase this. Let's look at 10 meters thick. So I'm going to do the same thing. I just increased it to 10, draw it, and you can see over here now it's increased thickness, so it's 5 meters above, 5 meters below. So if I go over here, I'm having a difficult time seeing it because I have multiple blocks on top of each other. This is where your clipping tools come in. So I'm going to set my Z to the insertion point of this text. Okay. Insertion point. There it is. Okay, and these blocks, ooh, how thick are they? Let's do a distance here, just to get an idea of the thickness. And I'm not using sub-blocking in this case, so I'm just using the basic block. So it's 3 meters high. So I'm just going to go in and clip this to 1.5 meters. Just change my font here so it's a little easier to read. Okay, so there's 1.69 meters. And my elevation is set to 1090.5, which is the centroid of the block. Right, now what I can do is if I set my clip tools to 3 meters, when I move the arrow up, you can see I'm moving through. Let me just zoom out here. So I'm stepping through my block model. Every time I hit the button, I'm looking at a different elevation. So in this case, I'm now looking at 9250. So I'm at the very top of the block model. So I'm going to move down. So that's the first slice through the block model. And at this point, I can start outlining higher areas, higher grade areas. For instance, if I wanted to mine this area, I could start just outlining it like so. Zoom in on it. Now when I step down, that'll stay centered. So now I can draw my next one, starting roughly in the same spot. Just highlight the area of interest. It doesn't have to be the same shape. You notice I'm drawing in the same direction. I don't have to, but it makes it easier in the long run. Okay, and then step down again, and draw my third one. So start right here. So if I come over on this side now, you can see there are my 3 shapes that I just drew. I can now join those together. I can delete my block model at this point. Get rid of it. I can turn my levels off if I want or dump them. At this point, I just want to mesh my 3 shapes together. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's look at that in 3D, see how it looks. Okay, so there's the shape. Let's render it, see what it looks like. Okay, so there's the little volume I just did. Okay, now there's no cap on it yet, so I have to put a cap on it if I was using it, if I was exporting it to another system. But I don't have to put a cap on it with the Amine system. Okay. Now that I've done that, I'm going to actually just tag this shape. The reason why I tag it is so I can query it more effectively. So I'm just going to call this volume 1 demo. And full blocks, no, I want percentage of blocks, so tag it. And it wants me to select it, so I'm just going to highlight it like that. Now it's going and tagging the system, so it's determining which part of the block model falls inside of it and what percentage of it. So each block is going to be evaluated for the percentage. So you can see here it's 1,377 cubic meters. Now that it's been tagged, I can now query it. So evaluate my volume. So copper equivalent is what I'm using. So I'm going to say I'm using a cutoff grade of 2%. So I'm going to query it. So that volume I drew is 3,845 tons of ore, 135 tons of low grade with no waste. Waste being defined as anything that has not been assigned a value but is included. So if I were to draw this outside of where the blocks actually have a value, then that would be considered dilution or waste. So copper equivalent, the grade is running at 5.26. I can see my iron and things like that. But let's see. So the average grade of the entire shape, which is tonnage, has 4,200 tons of ore. So grading at 5.26, what I want to do is let's find out what my ore grade is. So my ore grade is 5.4. So this 3,800 tons here is running at 5.4, so you can see it's very little dilution or low grade. But if I want to find out the grade of my stuff that falls below 2%, that's grading at 1.31. Now at this point I can then, let's add some blocks into this shape. So I'm just going to annotate the shape itself. Like so. Close this. So there's the shape that I've just evaluated. And I just drawn the blocks that fall within that shape. Now, you look at this and say, well, this one's falling outside. Well, it shows me the grade, but it's actually using about half of that block. The way I know that is I can go up here and say annotate my percentages. So this one is 28.57% of this block is being used of that grade. So it's a very accurate, precise evaluation. This piece down here is probably my low grade if I were to turn on the stuff that falls below 1.5. So you can see where my low grade is happening right here. And again, I can step through. Wrong way. Let's go the other way. So here's my other blocks. You can see the ones that are being calculated 100%. And those ones in there. The ones at the edges, I'm only getting a percentage of them. Okay. Now, the nice thing about dealing with AutoCAD in 3D is it's a true 3D engine. So what I can do is I want to cut. Let's cut through this over here. Now there's the blocks I just drew. I'm going to delete those. I don't need them right now. What I'm going to do is just draw a P line on the section I just cut. Like that. Look at it over here. Let's just turn off my clip. You can see there's the line I just drew. I can make this any size or shape I want. It's really irrelevant to the system. Because what it's going to do now is I now want to annotate this shape. I want to draw the blocks that fall within it. So I can cut a section and then I can query the block model based on that section without having to go and define anything. I just quickly went in and said draw a section and drew a P line on it. So there are the blocks that come within that section. Now it drew it pretty thick. Let's cut that down to 1 and do it again. Well, got to go a little thicker. Let's go 2. Still not. Let's go back up to 10 then. Okay, so here's my blocks. Now I can't see any text because you can see over here my text is just off the screen a little. So what I'm going to do is just set my Z to there. Now you can see the blocks. So all I do is move my cutting plane over a little bit so I can see the actual values. And I can now query this shape and determine its tons and grade based on a projected thickness. So we're going to quickly do that. So we're going to go to shape here. 1.5 by 1.5. I can say, let's go 2 by 2. Cutoff position, copper equivalent, 2%. Evaluate this value, this shape. So it's calculating now that this shape, if I were to extract it based on a 4 meter thickness of this shape, I would get 1,781 tons of ore, grading at 6.02% copper equivalent. Okay, so that's just a quick example of how you can manipulate the draw a shape, and pull in information from the block model, which is stored in SQL Server, so that I can then, regardless of where I'm working in space, I can cut it in any orientation, draw a shape, and the system will tell me, if I were to extract that, this is the estimated grade of that volume that I'm extracting. I can physically go in and draw my stopes. I can have geologic wireframes. It doesn't really matter. As long as it's a three-dimensional shape in AutoCAD, I can assign it a name and query it. Or if I draw a two-dimensional shape, then I can give it a projected thickness and query it as well. Okay, so that's the end of this lesson for now.